So that's a little bit of business from me. I want to introduce to you, we have an extraordinary board, many of whom are on this call as well. And so you're joining our entire extended team of World Ocean School, which is really fantastic. And hopefully if that at the end we'll be able to acknowledge each and every one of them. But for now, I want to introduce to you the chair of our board, Mike Atkins. I'll pass it over to Mike.
Eden, thank you so much. And in the spirit of keeping this tight, I'll keep my remarks to about 30 seconds. I am Mike Atkins. I'm the current chair of World Ocean School. I want to thank each of you for being here tonight and for your continued interest in the organization and our programming. It's really hard to think it's been a year since we ran this program last. We've had such a busy year. There's been so much going on in both St. Croix and in the Boston seasons. And I am personally looking forward to hearing from Captain Jill. So with that, I'm just going to turn this over to Captain Jill to share our experiences over the past year. Thanks for everybody for being here.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, this is exciting for me. At almost exactly this time last year, we were having a similar presentation, and things were very different aboard Sullivan. And I'm going to walk you through some of that and highlight some of our achievements. And then program manager Maddie Sandler is here with me, and she's going to talk as well about some of our program achievements this year. And then we'll conclude with what's on the horizon. This photo here, really lovely, from the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race, taken from our friends over at Sultana. Sultana and Sullivan sailed very closely to each other for most of that race. So we were in good company, and we so appreciate this lovely photo from Captain Richards. Hold on. Sorry, there you go. I wanted to start by just recognizing someone very dear to the Denis Sullivan community. I did not know Uncle Pat Kowalski at all. I certainly read about him in the Schooner Days book, and know how important he was to the building of Sullivan and to the whole Sullivan family. And he passed away this summer. And so Paul Peliquin, who is photoed there with Uncle Pat in the photo, shared that photo with us. And you know, we talked a little bit about Uncle Pat and how important he was, and we thought it'd be appropriate, especially at this Cocktails with the Captain, to raise a glass and celebrate him and all the work he did to ensure that this vessel came to be, and how thankful we are at World Ocean School for that, so that we could be her current steward. So if you have a moment or you're drinking something, please let's celebrate Uncle Pat.
Why isn't your picture there?
I don't know.
Great. So this time last year, almost exactly, I think this photo was taken on the 24th. This is what the Sullivan looked like. So very, very different than what she looks like right now. This is at the Chicago Yacht Club, waiting to start her inland journey. So at this point, she's pretty much just a barge ready to make that passage. And it was much colder than where she is right now. I should add that Maddie and I are both talking to you from Brunswick, Georgia, which is where the boat is right now. We're off the boat, obviously, but it's nice to have the whole team together here on the ground, or so much of the team together here on the ground. So exactly a year ago today, the boat left Chicago for a really incredible journey, truly down the heart of the US. And it took a lot of planning. It took some reassurances from tugboat captains that routinely make the trip. It certainly was not without its challenges, but generally speaking, it was a very uneventful voyage, and something really unique, especially for a tall ship. We got the office got lots of calls. We got picked up on Facebook. There are lots of fun things coming out as the ship watchers along the route saw an unusual vessel coming down the way. So I've just highlighted a couple of the stops and achievements that we made. I was not aboard for that. Captain Flansburgh led that trip. I was patiently, or maybe not so patiently, waiting in St. Petersburg, Florida for the boat to arrive, and I was there to receive all the rigging and masts that came down and started making those preparations. So yeah, it feels particularly fitting to have this presentation today, exactly a year ago from when the boat left Chicago. And then just a few photos to highlight it. Yeah, dreary and cold when we left. That's the top left photo. That's the first bridge we went underneath, which was also one of the lowest bridges of the whole trip. And then obviously going past the arch in St. Louis. And then that's a photo of most of the crew in front of the Coffeyville Dam lock. The only crew not there, ones who were sleeping. So you can see how the weather improved along the trip. And then, of course, we got to Florida and we had to put the whole boat together. And I'm going to say, you know, it being new to World Ocean School and being a 3-masted schooner and having a reefee and having topmasts and all its masts, it was a very complicated project. I think we can all be very proud that we basically did the entire uprig in 20 days. And that was along with painting the hull and finish putting seam compound. I mean, that certainly wasn't the only thing happening. We were able to be successful because we brought in some extra crew. We brought down a professional rigger. In that photo, I've highlighted Captain Wells, one of our regular captains, who's a great rigger, and he came and really led the charge as well. So very long days and long hours to pull this off. And if I'm being completely truthful, the last 2 topsails were bent on as the boat was leaving St. Pete. So I guess technically 21 days. We snuck those on at the very end, but still really, really incredible how much work we did. We had to get the whole boat rigged because we had our Coast Guard inspection that we needed to pass before we left St. Pete. So there was some pressure to get it done, and we had really no hiccups along the way, and the Coast Guard was really satisfied. So I just want to highlight all the effort that went into that. Great, and then there you go. So we went from a river barge to a 3-masted topsail schooner. So you know, a really big deal. This photo is from the Gloucester Schooner Fest this year. So. Just moving along the timeline a little bit, we did something a little bit new that was a great success. So we're going to do it again this year. Is the plan is we use the transit from Florida to St. Croix to be a training sail with our new AmeriCorps crew cohort. And I think this was just such a great opportunity because the only people who were on board the vessel at the time were the off-going crew along with the oncoming crew, and there were so little distractions. It was a 10-day trip at sea and just a really great time to kind of pass over lessons learned and training and get the new crew fully immersed in that. So it was really great, and we're going to do a similar model this year. So like I said, 10 days later, the boat arrived in St. Croix for the first time ever in its 22-year history. So that was pretty special.
If you click on mute, maybe it'll go off.
And then I'm just going to highlight a few sort of, I'm going to call them sailing highlights because Maddie's going to talk about program highlights. But I'll let you guys read the screen on your own. But the top photo is from the Gloucester Schooner Fest. The bottom one is from the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. Really neat to be a part of these. There is so much positive energy around Sullivan being there, especially as a 3-masted schooner. We look a little bit different than everyone else. So we had lots of folks coming by to check out the boat and learn more about what we did. And, it's a really complicated boat to race. Unfortunately, both races were pretty light air. Sullivan is a little bit better designed for heavy air passages, but it was still a great opportunity to get all the canvas and kites up. So that was really great. And then I just have 2 videos to share that I think really kind of encapsulate some of the sailing we've had this season that are pretty fun to look at. So this first one is from the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race.
Oh, that's Maddie down there.
Yeah.
Videoing Maddie. Anyway. The start of the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. And look at how excited the crew is. I got Bina super excited. And Ken, engineer.
So that's what it looked like when we were racing. Pretty light air, very beautiful. Everyone had all their sail up. And then we were really fortunate on our actual passages coming south. So Boston to Baltimore and then Norfolk down to Charleston to have some really fabulous sailing. Like I mentioned before, Sullivan really loves probably about 20 to 30 knots is where she does best. And so this next video is them sailing from Norfolk to Charleston with following seas and a following breeze. So really good time. Though you'll notice one crew member is not maybe having so much fun. And she said that I could include this video for a little bit of levity and comic relief. This is, you'll see Ashley in it, who's one of our full year AmeriCorps volunteers. who maybe didn't enjoy this passage as much as quite everybody else.
Where's like
But again, just a really great sail and a great opportunity for us to get to know the boat a little bit better and kind of stretch out the rig since we put it together and make adjustments and things like that. So, and I think for the crew who has spent a lot of time on board, it was nice to have a bit more breeze to work with. Great, and now Maddie's going to take over for just a little bit to highlight some programming we've done.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maddie, Program Manager at World Ocean School and former crew member. So I'll just go over some of the things that we did this summer, or this year, actually. We had a really incredible year of programming. So I broke down some numbers and some stats here if people are interested. We worked so far, year's not over yet, but with a total of 573 students, and 238 of those were over the winter in St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands, and then 335 in the summer and fall season. So that summer and fall season includes students from a wider scope, but generally New England. So you can see below I listed where students came from this year, the US Virgin Islands and various states, and all those countries abroad were one program in particular, but we had a great array of students this year. We spent 110 days on program, and about half of that were residential programs. So students were living on the ship with our crew for about 54 days this year. So far, again, there's still more to come. And then the age group, 4th to 12th graders is typically the students that are on. A lot of those 12th graders, the programs that we run can be much older than your typical high school student. So sometimes they'll be up to 20, 21 with the programs that we run, but they're generally in school from 4th to 12th grade. I won't go through the whole list, but I just wanted to give a shout out for all of our partners in both St. Croix and in Boston. Although some of these, I split them up by season. So some of these St. Croix partners are really US Virgin Island, and some of the Boston partners extend all the way to Milwaukee. Milwaukee Community Sailing Center is one of those partners this year. So I just wanted to give folks a shout out here. And then just highlight 2 programs in particular. These are some photos from the 2-week program we did with Boston International Newcomers Academy. So there were 18 students who were all recent immigrants to the United States. Boston International Newcomers Academy, or BINCA, is a Boston public school that helps new immigrants kind of get into the school system and finish their high school careers and start new here. So we had a really great program sailing all the way down to New York City to see the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July, and then back to Boston. So these are some of my favorite photos from that. And I also wanted to highlight our Summer Ambassador program, which we do every year. This year, it was students from all over the country. I love this series of photos at the bottom, a student from Boston, a student from St. Croix, and a student from Milwaukee having fun on deck. I thought those were a really great series. So we had a great 10-day program with those kids, and we sailed down to Connecticut and back, and they had a really great time. I'm gonna hand it back over to Jill.
So on top of all that programming we've done, we've also just physically covered a huge amount of ground this past year. It's really incredible to think about it. So this photo was taken just yesterday. So that's what the shipboard log is at this moment. And Captain Flansburgh and I were figuring we could add about 30 or 40 more nautical miles to that because he reset it in Chicago. And so prior to that, the boat went from Milwaukee up to Manitowoc and then down to Chicago. So we're a little over that. So I put some comparisons there to really give a sense of just how significant that is. And for those who really keeping count, the circumference of the globe is a little over 21,000. So we're just shy of halfway, but still really, really an impressive amount in exactly 1 year. Then I want to talk a little bit about the vessel, specifically the work we've been doing, and then some of the work we anticipate doing this next year. This list doesn't represent everything that's happened on board, but it's just some kind of the bigger improvements we've made. Most of the ones on the 2023 list have been completed. So that's great. We've really made some quality of life sort of on board improvements, has been a focus early on. And then now in Brunswick, we have a little over 2 weeks to do some dedicated maintenance. The crew has been very busy. We have all the booms and gaffs down, the sails unbent, so we can give those spars some attention. The refi yard came down. We have a shipwright that we regularly work with, the same shipwright that did the caulking above the waterline for us. Milwaukee is arriving this evening to start some work on the chart house. And then myself and one of our engineers are going to be installing a water maker. So earlier today, he and I actually had to drive to Savannah, Georgia to go pick it up, and it came to the boat in my car to much excitement. So everyone's looking forward to getting that project and learning a little bit more about it. And then next year, just highlight a few things on the horizon. We will haul out to do an extended maintenance period and just meet our requirements from both the American Bureau of Shipping and the U.S. Coast Guard. And I'm sure just do a little bit of below the water work and continue good practices on deck and things like that. So it's always busy. If we're not doing program, we're doing maintenance. It's certainly never a dull moment aboard. And because the water maker has a special place in my heart, I've chose to include that as the photo for this slide. So that is the water maker that Isaac and I picked up today, that is currently sitting down below on Sullivan. Isaac says it's going to be in 24 hours. I'm going 36, but I like that he's the optimist, but we'll hopefully have that in place very soon. What's next?
Just want to go over a brief what is next, because we have some exciting things coming up. So I have a picture of the crew here, the current crew in Boston. Right before we left, we said goodbye to Boston, and a picture of St. Croix. So we have a cohort of 8 new AmeriCorps deckhands coming in just a week now. They'll arrive here. They'll do about a week of dockside training with the crew, and then like Jill said, another training transit down to St. Croix. So it's an exciting period of transition here, and we're getting ready to welcome them. And then we also have a new program this year, our Winter Ambassador program that we're going to run. We're looking to another open enrollment program to get students from all over to come sign up. So again, students from Milwaukee and St. Croix and Boston and everywhere else. So I have those dates and ages and some information here, but if you know somebody who would be interested, you think, feel free to reach out, and I would be happy to talk with folks about that program.
Great. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about our other beloved schooner, Roseway. I'm sure some of you are curious what's happening with Roseway. So she is still down in Mystic, under the care of the seaport, as well as we have a shipkeeper. For those of you familiar with World Ocean School might know the name Nick Parker. He's been an excellent employee of World Ocean School in so many capacities, and he has a full-time job at Mystic Seaport. And then he also spends some very dedicated time with us and keeping an eye on Roseway. So he spent quite a bit of time making small improvements on board, putting in independent bilge dewatering system, sort of as a just-in-case system on board. He's improving ventilation. We have heaters for the winter. So really, we're still taking a lot of efforts to maintain Roseway as she is right now, so that she's in the best shape she can be for when we start the restoration in earnest, which we are hoping to begin in winter of 2025. Some of you familiar with Mystic Seaport know that they have a very full dance card. You could say right now there's quite a few beloved wooded schooners on the hard. So we're sort of in the queue at the moment, but that suits us just fine, because Roseway is in a prominent place at the seaport that we're really excited about. That's the photo on the side of the screen there. I highlighted where the museum entrance is and then where Roseway is. So upon entering the museum, the seaport, Roseway is the first vessel you see right there. And the seaport's really happy to have us there, because we're continuing to tell the Gloucester fishing schooner story that Duntons, their vessel that's currently being restored, would previously tell in that spot. So it's really, I think, mutually beneficial, and we're excited to continue to partner with Mystic Seaport and really get underway on this project in the not so distant future and have Roseway up and going again. And then that's pretty much it for what I wanted to share. This is just such a lovely photo. I think I can at least speak for myself when I think of the work that we do, that when we have trips like that Binka program that Maddie described, and sometimes the stars just truly align. So they were down in New York City under the Statue of Liberty. I think Maddie already mentioned that, on 4th of July as first generation Americans. And that's just really cool. And so it was neat that we could capture so much of that in photo. And so I really like this one. But of course, want to say thanks to all of you for participating in this, for being interested in World Ocean School and the work that we do. And I look forward to doing this report again next year with all the great work we're doing and some improvements and changes in the life of Denis Sullivan. So thank you.
Captain Jill, thank you very much. Ashley, if you'd actually take off any spotlights, so hopefully we can see more of the whole group of folks who are here with us. I would love to open it up for questions and comments for Jill, especially in her update. Looks like Robert Roderick has his hand up. Robert, if you're there, we'd love to have you unmute and feel free to ask a question. But otherwise, any other questions from the group? Caroline Joyce, I see you are unmuted.
Yes, I'm unmuted. First of all, just seeing the boat, I'm from Milwaukee, and just seeing the wonderful enthusiasm around this boat that we love so much, like within Wisconsin, and the wonderful things you're doing with it, and the excitement of some of the children that you were on board your boat. I mean, it's such a pleasure to see this. And I think I see some other people that work really hard on the boat and everything. And like say David Drake, he's a sea shanty man. He's all these types of things. He could probably say a few words too, but I think it's great. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Caroline. Eileen.
Hi there, I'm in Boston, and I don't want to take anything away from the Sullivan. Looks like you're doing fabulous work, and shame on me for not already knowing this, but where Roseway is in Mystic Seaport, is there any celebration there or education there about her history in Boston Harbor as the pilot boat for the Boston pilots?
There is a plaque and an informational piece on the dock there that highlights Roseway's history, including that really important part of her history as part of her National Historic status. So yes, great. there is a great opportunity there, and there's also a QR code to scan on that display that brings you up to our website with an opportunity to get to more information about Roseway and her history.
Terrific, thank you.
So may I ask, so you must be connected to the harbor pilots.
Right. Yeah, my husband was a harbor pilot. He retired, I think, in 2006. And so I've enjoyed many sails on Roseway with the harbor pilots through the World Ocean. So I appreciate that. And I'm really happy about the work you're doing with Sullivan. Can't wait to see her. Sorry, I didn't see her this summer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we look forward to welcoming you on board. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Fred Eustace. Hope you are on mute.
I don't have a question. I just want to make an observation. I think it's neat, and I didn't realize this when I signed up for this, that it's exactly a year ago that the Sullivan left the Chicago dock on a trip that unfortunately I wasn't allowed to join. I know you've been through some pretty amazing years in your history with Eden with World Ocean School, but I can't imagine a year full of more challenge and change and opportunity than the year we've just been through. We are so lucky to have the Denis Sullivan. And if there's any, and Caroline or anybody else who's here from Wisconsin, I just can't tell you how much the board appreciates what Denis Sullivan is doing for us. And we hope that that you all feel that we're doing the same thing for you by keeping her going. But just, it's been an amazing, amazing year.
Thank you very much for saying that. We love that she's loved. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, Fred, yes, it's been an exceptional year. Although World Ocean School has been famous for eventful years over the years. So, but this
Yes.
this has been truly remarkable, and there's a lot to be proud of for sure.
A lot.
I'm pleased to introduce next an extraordinary volunteer with us, somebody who is from Milwaukee, who's just been an exceptional force in our World Ocean School's launch, and has actually been able to participate in some of our programs. So I'm going to pass it over to our engineer, Dan.
Guess I have to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I had two questions. One, I saw you're putting in a water maker. I wanted to hear a little bit more about that process, where it's going to live and be powered and all that. It's a great addition for a boat that's no longer on fresh water. And then second, I was wondering what the status of fundraising for Roseway is, and where you see that going in the future.
Great, thanks, Dan. So I'll start with your second question and then hand it over to Jill. So we are officially in the quiet phase of fundraising for our major project. We have secured at this point 1.8 million in pledges and gifts towards the total project. So our official strategic plan has our total at 12.5 million. So there's a big investment in the organization, as well as this work in Roseway. So we've still got a ways to go. We've opened some extraordinary doors for our small but mighty team, but we do have a long way to go. But we are looking forward to seeing if we can hit that target to launch the project for Roseway's 100th year. So right now the timeline for Mystic would be a January 2025 start, and we think that would be pretty sweet to get to celebrate Roseway's 100th birthday with the launch of that major project. So hopefully that answered your question, and I'll hand it over to Jill for
Well, they sold it, but they sure are taking care.
I'll hand it over for Jill for the water maker.
Yep, great. Dan, the other folks in this crowd may regret that question, because I could talk ad nauseum about the water maker, but for this group, I'll try to keep it general, and then of course, Dan, you can always reach out if you want to get into the nitty gritty with me. But we were able to get a Blue Water Explorer model water maker. It's a modular unit, so I might as well, for folks who maybe aren't familiar with the idea of a water maker, it's really the type that we're going to utilize on the vessel is a reverse osmosis machine. So that means it draws in seawater, it puts it through a very high pressure pump that pushes it through some membranes that are incredibly fine, that remove the salt and the other impurities in the water. And then on the other side, you have almost pure H2O drinking water, and then that will go into our tank. So that is the process of a water maker. And we have been able to utilize some of the vessel's existing through hulls, so holes that already exist in the boat, from some of the science work that the vessel used to do that we're not currently set up to do. So that was really nice. And from a Coast Guard standpoint, it made everybody happy, because there are existing openings in the boats that are not being used for any other purpose. And This system will only run off of the generator. If there's any folks particularly interested in electrical engineering, our generator is a 240 generator, but it produces 2 legs of 120. And so we're able to put this water maker on one of those legs. And for those who know the boat well, or know the boat down below well, most of the unit is going to go in. There's a cleaning locker that's in the starboard side of the galley hold. So sort of right next to the galley, and most of the equipment for the water maker is going to live right there. It's definitely going to change the acoustics a little bit in that space, because if anyone's been on a boat with a water maker, the high pressure pump is quite loud, but we're going to try to put in some sound buffering stuff, and it'll just be kind of in its own little room. But it'll really just increase the abilities of the boat. It certainly has a substantial water capacity right now. It's about 800 gallons. I mean, last year we sailed to St. Croix just fine with a nearly full boat like that, but having this water maker will really give us a little extra cushion for extensive voyaging, and also just make life a little bit easier down in St. Croix.
Great, thanks, Jill. Dan, did we answer your questions?
Yeah, you answered them very well, and that location sounds like ideal choice of place to put that equipment as well.
Thank you. Well, I hope, Dan, you'll run it at some point next year. So I'm glad that we agree. I'm looking forward to showing it to you.
Dan has been active with the boat for a very long time and is very familiar. Thus, his attention to detail with the ship, and he's just been an extraordinary addition to our World Ocean School team.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well,
Liz.
oh, go ahead.
Rick, I'll come on you next. Liz, I see your hand up.
I'm trying to turn on my video for you. Oh, hi. So I'm Liz Regalia. I was actually lucky enough to meet Maddie last week out on the ship. I work with Ashley Hall, local Charleston school, and we'll be going to from St. Croix up to Charleston with you guys in March, I believe. But so I actually work for the school, and I will be kind of doing a big kind of feature on women in sailing coming up because our school is all girls. So my question was kind of for Jill, because I believe you'll be on that voyage, and I wondered, you kind of said that, you know, when you're not doing maintenance, you're doing program. So kind of from a captain's standpoint, I'd love to kind of hear what excites you about each, if that is something you would maybe talk to, just because I think that's such a beautiful part of World Ocean School, you know, the combination of, you know, the professional side of everything and then the programming side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. I have to share that unfortunately I will not be captain for the Ashley Hall trip, and I would love to be, and I've even talked to Eden about it, but some of you on the screen know that I have a 9-month-old, and so it's a little bit harder for me to get away for as long as I usually would. So I certainly love the role I'm in as port captain and try to get on the boat as much as I can, but not quite as much as I used to. But I am really happy and proud to say that Captain Krista Miller-Shelley, who has been a captain with World Ocean School for quite a few years, and also captains Adventure in Gloucester, will be at the helm for that trip. So another really fantastic female captain to drive. But yeah, to answer your question, it's hard, I think, for me to answer it succinctly, because I think my mind could just wander in all sorts of directions that I would get excited about. I'll talk about sort of program first. I love program because I love seeing the transformation in students. It's just so, like, a ship is just such an equalizer. I mean, everyone's living the exact same experience on board, regardless, more or less, of what they came to the boat with. And I think that is so special. I also really love tall ships and sail training as a platform because it often challenges students in a way that maybe the classroom doesn't, or even that life doesn't always necessarily. I also find that sometimes students that maybe don't shine quite as much in a traditional classroom environment really do well in the shipboard environment. And I also just love certain things that you see how the community supports each other in ways you maybe don't expect. You know, someone might have a desire to help the cook with a meal, but maybe not be that into the sailing. And that's totally okay, because everyone on board needs to eat. There's no one job that's sort of more important or less important than another. And I kind of love seeing that all come together. And I love seeing the phases that the students go through when they're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? You mean I'm going to live here for the next 2 weeks? That's crazy. I don't want to do it. And then, you know, within 3 days, they feel like it's at home and they're bonded and they're so excited about what they're doing. And then to mirror that with the maintenance, I think is just what makes the job as a professional mariner so dynamic, because a lot of the time I get to think about, how do I get to create a really meaningful and safe and interesting trip for these students? And then I get to kind of use a totally different part of my brain to think about, well, what are the needs of the ship? And we have these 2 months coming up, and what's going to be the highest priority. And, you know, especially as a wooden vessel, there's always a long maintenance list. And it's fun to sort of think about, well, how can we maximize our time? And as a captain, I think I really enjoy getting to work with crew that doesn't have quite as much experience, helping them transition between those two zones. Like, it's really neat, especially for our AmeriCorps crew that spend a year on board. They just get introduced to such a variety of skill sets. They get to learn how to best work with young adults that come aboard for our residential programs over the summer. And then, like, you know, yesterday they brought a 50-foot graffiti yard down to deck and stripped it down to bare wood, and we're painting it. I mean, it's just kind of totally different skill sets, and they get a little bit of all of that in 1 year on board. And I think that's great. And then if a little bit, I'll highlight my interests are really engineering. So like you can see, I'm excited about this water maker. And I don't know, there just aren't as many female captains, there aren't as many female engineers, and there also aren't that many that have children. And so I feel really fortunate, especially with World Ocean School, that I've been able to model that for other, particularly females, that are maybe interested in this as a lifestyle or as a profession.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And before we go to Rick, I want to just piggyback on some of what Jill said, and I think it's very extraordinary that we have Jill as a role model in our organization, and she's just a force and such a great inspiration for all of our crew. Interestingly, we have more and more female mates in the roster. Tatiana Dalton has moved through our organization and is in mate and training, and she'll be sitting for her license, and I believe part of the Ashley Hall voyage in the spring. And most of our cohort of AmeriCorps crew are either identify as female or non-binary. And, you know, it's really, we're seeing the shift, and it's really pretty extraordinary to see that it's not the traditional maritime model. But it's really pretty extraordinary to be surrounded by such powerhouse women doing this. And it takes a lot of guts, and then to model that for our students, I think is pretty extraordinary as well. All right, Rick, over to you.
Hi, yeah, Rick Fitzgerald. Just really can't say enough about, you know, how much, you know, work and effort and love you folks have put into the boat, and really appreciate it. And that I'm looking forward to actually, you know, seeing you guys and maybe being able to spend a day or so with the boat over Christmas, because we'll be down in St. Croix that week of the 18th of December. So
that's fantastic. We'd love to welcome you on board. That's great. So, and I take it, am I correct in assuming you're from Milwaukee?
yes, former volunteer, you know, from Milwaukee. Yep.
Perfect. Well, we're thrilled to welcome you into the World Ocean School fold, and excited to welcome you on board in the Caribbean.
Thanks.
Other questions from this group? All right, well, Dr. Lane, thanks for joining us.
My apologies. I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand, everyone. My question is relative to the students. Last year, I had the pleasure of being on a ride with my students and incorporating, kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to incorporate this into the learning process with the university. So will these opportunities again be available to both community and schools? And invitations actually be sent to the university? I'm actually with the School of Education, so I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, we're thrilled about the partnership with UVI, and I see Maddie's switching, so she's going to take over the response to this question.
Funny you should ask that. I just sent an email today to Dr. Brown and Dr. Boykins. So hopefully, yes, I would love to continue that. Please feel free to reach out. I'll send you my email in the chat, and I'd love to chat with you about ways to do that.
I will, because I'm actually on St. Croix, and the others are on the main campus in St. Thomas, but I'm St. Croix.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, I'll reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that. We've got participation far and wide tonight. I really appreciate everybody's time and interest and commitment to the organization. We would not be here without the incredible team, nor our board or the fantastic supporters of World Ocean School that have been through it with us. And I want to give a quick shout out to some of our board members. And I don't know if everyone is on camera, so I will just give it, as I can see folks, I will just work to recognize them. But I see Amanda Pullen-Crone, one of our longtime board members, is with us tonight. Carol Rosner, you saw Mike Atkins earlier. Cassie Serrano, where are you? I think I saw you. Chris Sauer, Fred Eustace, we heard from Fred earlier. Matt Handy, one of our newer board members. Hi, Mike. Hi, Matt. Steve Briggs, Harry McMahon, who's from Milwaukee, and also Caroline Joyce, also our Milwaukee contingent of board. And we're thrilled to have you join in this team. Matt Wilder, an additional new cohort member. Clark Callahan and Christina Knop. Let's see, am I missing any other board members? Flag me. I'm trying to, there's so many boxes on my screen. If I've missed you, shame on me. But I think I've got our full contingent. So we have a really extraordinary board that went through, while we've got some new folks who recently joined us. The majority of core board members who've been with us longer were part of a really significant strategic planning process at the end of 2021, and that was really formalized in the beginning of 2022. And that work clarified our priorities, and our 4 priorities have been identified as increasing the impact of our programs, preserving our flagship vessel Roseway, increasing our financial sustainability and the innovation of our organization, and becoming a leader in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so those are the 4 priorities that we've committed to that are part of this, as I mentioned before, this $12.5 million effort that we are officially in the quiet phase of, moving along, really committed to those efforts. And when we came up with that strategic plan and we were committed to that, we had actually anticipated that we wouldn't own another vessel. We really approached initially organizations about chartering their vessel and utilizing another vessel. But when this opportunity came up with Discovery World, this partnership was made that really felt meaningful. And it's so impactful for us to continue to grow the partnerships with Milwaukee Sailing Center and to have Milwaukee students on board. We're working with them to have some Milwaukee students join us for a winter ambassador program over this winter, and then continuing to grow those program partnerships. And this connection to Milwaukee is really significant. And as Fred pointed out, the Denis Sullivan to World Ocean School has been extraordinary. And it's really enabled us to think about this restoration project, not just as a restoration project for Roseway, but of truly doubling our operation at the completion of the project and running both boats in tandem. And so it's an extraordinary opportunity, and we're just really proud of how we were able to mobilize and get that vessel going and put so much love and heart into it, and so many extraordinary programs this year. So you all on the call, by your investment of time and just thinking about this with us, just shows your support, and it's really motivating for all of us. And we're just thrilled to have you part of this World Ocean School team. So I will raise a glass to each of you. Cheers. Thank you very much for joining us. If there's any other questions, feel free to hang on, but otherwise our program for this evening has ended. And again, thanks on behalf of our entire organization.